Hey Nabeel, good to meet you. Oh, you're still muted, bro.
John, how are you, man?
Great, thank you very much. Nice. It's funny, I've seen you in a few videos. You're always that's your desk, your office,
Yeah,
the same bookcase behind you. It's it's funny when you see some in videos and then you actually speak to them. It's a uncanny feeling, you know.
yeah. This is my home office. It's the maid's room.
Hmm.
So we don't have a maid, so I turned it into a home office.
You're in Dubai, right?
Yes,
And you born and raised there, or you come there from a different part of the world?
I'm Sri Lankan.
Ah, okay. And
Sri
when did
Lankan.
when did you move to Dubai?
So I went to high school in Sri Lanka,
Hmm.
and then I moved to Chicago for a few years to attend university,
Hmm.
and then I moved to Dubai to be closest to my father and brother who were working here.
Hmm.
And I've been here ever since
How long is that?
2006.
Okay,
Since
well, so like
2006. Yeah.
14 years, 17 years, man. Okay, so is it home now?
Yes. Yes.
Yes. Okay, beautiful. And yeah, it's great to meet you. I just do a rolling start in these calls. They are not like a podcast format. I don't put hypey music on the beginning or end or any of that sort of stuff. I just basically reach out to interesting people and say, hey, can we have a conversation?
Perfect, man. Ready when you are.
Okay, awesome. Um, so when did you first type how to make money online into Google?
I don't think I ever did that. I got introduced to Ramit Sethi's work
Ah, good.
through a friend who was into self-improvement and that kind of thing.
Hmm.
And at the time, I, him and me, we would help out. Um, we were part of the organizing committee at this community center, a religious community center. And because I was handy with the written word, I used to do all of their marketing collaterals.
Hmm.
And I had no idea at the time that I was writing copy. When I got introduced to Ramit Sethi and started to look more into him, I realized that, okay, this is what I've been doing because Ramit Sethi is, in fact, himself a copywriter, even though he doesn't write his copy anymore.
Yes.
And so I realized, oh, this is what I've been doing. And I went down the rabbit hole of online entrepreneurship, making money online. And eventually I got exposed to other people that Ramit recommended. So Neville Medora, Gary Halbert, and then I went down the rabbit hole further. And eventually I started, I decided that let me try out this copywriting thing as a profession.
So I'm guessing if you got into Ramit Sethi, and I remember from around that time, I was reading some of his stuff. He first really blew up like 2011, 2013, that kind of time. Is that right?
It was around that time. I think he had been producing content for much longer than that.
Yes.
I'm not sure when it is that he started blowing up, but his path has always been like steady growth. It wasn't just one day where he suddenly blew up. He
Yeah.
was like always consistent growth.
And he created kind of distinct, I didn't understand this at the time, but like looking back on it now, he didn't lump himself in with all the internet marketers. He kind of kept himself in a position. He primarily positioned himself as a kind of author as well. He was pretty clear about that from the beginning, with his book, How to Be, I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Yeah, he counter signals internet marketers a lot,
Yes.
um, provocatively. Justin Brooke has an article on Medium where he calls out Ramit Sethi's. Um, I think I don't know if it was an email or a tweet that Ramit wrote where he insulted internet marketers, and Justin Brooke has this whole article about that, how internet marketers are good people, like they're helping out, uh, saving the orphans in Africa and things like that. It's a good article from Justin Brooke as well.
Hmm.
But Ramit has always counter-signaled like the internet marketer, hardcore direct response crowd, even though
He
he is
is one.
hardcore. He is hardcore direct response.
Absolutely. Um, with Ramit. And I think the reason he did that, the type of people he wanted to speak to were kind of graduates of good American universities who had nice corporate jobs but were frustrated in them, like people who were already doing well but wanted to do better or wanted more freedom. So he didn't want to get lumped in with the MMO crowd.
Yeah, they're mostly like tech people, San Francisco type people, New York type people, and so they have a certain kind of vibe to them. The, you know, East Coast, West Coast millennial vibe, Ramit's ilk, as it were. And so they have a certain kind of attitude toward marketing in general. And so Ramit tends to counter-signal that as well. He counter-signals the tech guys that hate marketing, and he also counter-signals the internet marketer types. And so he has to sort of straddle that line. So he uses a lot of direct response, but he does it, in my opinion at least, it's a very tasteful kind of direct response.
Yeah. Somebody else who that reminds me of is like Joanna Wiebe and all those people at Copy Hackers who do the exact same thing. They counter signal direct response, say like these people are scum. They're, they'd steal their grandmother, they'd sell their grandmother to the sausage factory.
Bro marketers, they call
Bro
it.
marketers, but like they're doing exactly, oh, but we don't do direct response here. We do conversion copywriting, which is something completely different and yet somehow the same.
And all it is a unique mechanism, right? So
yeah.
they've come up with their own unique mechanism or created their own category. So Joanna Wiebe says she's the world's first conversion copywriter because she invented the term. And the story goes that, her story at least, is like she was very active on Hacker News, and she would help out a lot of the tech people with their landing pages and copy and stuff like that. And they wanted to they wanted to find out how they could work with her or what they can buy from her. And eventually she decided to create products, and she started off with ebooks, and that turned into, well, I think the website came first, or maybe the products came first. She had a bunch of ebooks. They're off the market now. There's 8 ebooks, like very famous ebooks about copywriting. And then Copy Hackers was born, because it was like the mix of, it's like direct response copywriting for tech people, or SaaS people.
Even the way you tell it, though, that's classic self-mythologizing in the direct response mold, right?
Yes.
So when did you get your first client?
First client sort of fell into my lap. I think it was for that community center I was working with.
Mm-hmm.
We were hosting a conference, and a buddy of mine who also helped out with me. We were sort of in the organizing committee. He was doing the branding and the marketing, all of the marketing materials for the event. So I ended up writing the website and the poster and brochures and all of the other kinds of copy that they needed. I think I might even wrote my first press release, but that was a paid gig, and that sort of fell into my lap. And I did it part-time for several years, until the company that I was working at, they did a merger, or they were bought out, and then my position became redundant. And so that was the perfect excuse for me to go into copywriting full-time. And it still took me a couple of years before I hit my stride and was actually getting clients and things like that, and making a full-time income out of it. But that was the sort of the timeline, as it were.
And you actually had another career at that time. Did that influence what you did in marketing, or was it completely different?
It's completely different. It was procurement and contracts management and procurement. And I mean, that helped. I don't think it helped in any kind of way. The contracts work might have helped a little bit, just in negotiating deals with clients.
Mm-hmm.
But that's just barely, I would say. The copywriting and marketing that I do now is like vastly different to the work that I was doing in my 9 to 5.
And I first heard of you from Facebook, but in the last few months I've really put more energy into like just having a second channel I can use on social media with Twitter. And since I've started being more active on Twitter, I see you all the time now, because you're very active on Twitter. And is that your primary like client acquisition channel?
It didn't used to be a client client acquisition channel. It is more of an acquisition channel now. Before, my main channel was Facebook, where I got most of my clients, because most of my clients are in the online business, coaching, high ticket coaching kind of space. And then I sort of fell into a job on Twitter, writing some abandoned cart emails for this AI startup. And then my Twitter suddenly became very active as a source of inbound leads. And just from that one client, I ended up getting a ton of clients from Twitter. So now it's probably my favorite place to get clients, because you get a little bit bored writing copy for internet marketers for years and years. It's the same copy, it's the same avatar, it's the same pain points, the same unique selling propositions, it's the same outcomes. So it's it's a nice change of pace.
I totally agree. And I have really, like, I haven't been in the game as long as you. I got my first client early 2019. And I've recently come to the point where, yeah, I am growing a little tired of internet marketers and sort of looking for new pastures. And that's one of the reasons kind of went to Twitter. I thought, I love Facebook. It's been so good to me. But at the same point, you get a few years into having an account, and that account, you create a filter bubble for yourself, and it's kind of inescapable. Like, there's people, good people you've built relationships with, and you don't want to cut them all off and delete it all and start again. But at the same point, you would like to move into a new room and meet some new people. So I've done that, and actually, like, it's like getting that first 1,000 connections on Twitter is hard going. Just about to get there now in the next couple of days. But and it's been completely different. And it's a learning curve, learning to write for Twitter after I was used to writing on Facebook and getting plenty of engagement and getting inbound leads. Whereas Twitter, I'm definitely getting engagement, getting inbound conversations, meeting people, but haven't, gotten business directly from Twitter yet. So I would love to hear what your thoughts are on how do you actually turn Twitter into a source of, like, lead gen and deal flow.
I don't have good advice for this. The clients that I've gotten, the vast majority of my clients are all inbound or referrals. It was just this one client, Danny Postma, who I reached out to. It wasn't cold outreach. It's what I'm calling room temperature outreach. So he had expressed buying interest. He's saying, I'm looking for a copywriter. Somebody tagged me under his post, one of my friends. And so I reached out to him, and I managed to close the deal. And then from there, I did excellent work for him. He shouted me out. And there was a bunch of inbound leads that came in from that. And that's how it ended up. In general, though, I would, if I was using Twitter as a main source of client acquisition and not for just shit posting and messing around, I would stick to a theme. Figure out the top 1 to 3 themes that your account is going to be about, and it doesn't have to be all about business. Some of it could be personal. I know Mitch Miller talks about having 30% business content, 30% client wins, and then 30% slice of lifestyle kind of content. So you can do it that way if you like, or you can just stick to your one kind of topic. The problem with creating content in any form, whether that's for social media or long form, is you have to actually know what you're talking about if you're going to talk about stuff related to expertise. And so what happens is you have these service providers, let's say copywriters, and they're new to the game, they're young, they don't have a lot of life experience, and they're trying to post value, but the value that they're posting is specious because they don't have enough experience, they don't have wisdom. All they're doing is conveying information, and information without experience is really useless. So when you can sort of suss it out when you see a beginner posting value, because it's very surface level, your bullshit detector goes off, and sometimes they're even just plain wrong, right? And so that's what you have to sort of be careful about. What I like to recommend copywriters do is um, is to talk about stuff that they're learning, the work that they're doing, stuff related to their work that, say, for example, they write Facebook ads, and they could do like analysis of Facebook ads, what they like about a particular ad, what they would improve about it. And so they're not really trying to post as an expert. They're posting more like an enthusiastic student, and that comes off a little bit more sincere. So
Yes.
that's what I would suggest. What I would also suggest is that you make it clear that you are open for business, you're looking for clients, and that doesn't have to be just by posting about it. It's by making sure that your profile, your online presence is optimized for that. Do you own your own name as a domain? Do you have a very easy way to book calls with you? Do you have a portfolio up on your website? I was just talking to my one of the copywriters that I mentored, and I referred a lead to her because the lead wasn't able to meet my budget. And today they followed up with me, and I asked them what happened with the other copywriter that I referred you to. So their response was that we did some checking online, and we weren't able to feel confident about whether she is able to do the work that we need. And that's because this copywriter, she doesn't have a proper website set up. She doesn't have, her social media profiles aren't optimized to demonstrate that she's a freelance copywriter looking for work. And the first thing that happens is when people hear about you, they're going to Google you. And so if you don't have a presence on Google or LinkedIn or wherever, you're not going to show up, and so you don't look legit. And so you lose a lot of jobs this way, and you're not even going to hear about it. The only reason that this copywriter, my mentee, heard about it is that I asked the lead what happened. But if it was just a random lead, they would have never heard about this. And I'm pretty sure she has lost a ton of business this way, because the prospect is just going to look you up, don't find you, ghost you. That's it. They're just going to ignore you, and they won't say another word.
Yep, I agree with all of that. And thank you for reminding me that I need to get my website back up again, because I've left it sitting down for too long. But there's a couple of things I want to touch on there. You mentioned about the specious value that people try to post when they're inexperienced, and I completely agree with that. What's interesting, you said like it's low value, but in fact, you said and even boring. But I think being boring is the worst sin of all. I mean, Ben Settle is the guy, Mr. Edutainment, and I sort of always paid attention to that. I was like, when you try to post value or talk about business too much, people tune you out because it is boring. People want a little bit of drama. They want a little bit of your life. They want to know what's going on. They want to come to your house and go through your underwear drawer when you're out of the room. That's what people want, because we're all voyeuristic.
And that does help too. People like to live vicariously. So you can share stuff about your life. It does help. It breaks the monotony. The thing is, you just got to get the proportions right. And when you're a new account starting out, you have to sort of make it very, very clear that this account is about selling copywriting services. And so if you're like doing 50-50 lead gen content and lifestyle content, it's not always going to be clear that this is a business type of account. So you want to just get the proportions right. I would say in the beginning, you maybe want to do 90% lead gen content, 10% lifestyle content. And then you can increase that percentage or redistribute that percentage as your account grows. Maybe you could even get to the point where it's like 60% lead gen content and 40% lifestyle content. And then inside the lead gen content, I include the quote unquote value, case studies, client wins, stuff that work that you're doing, that kind of thing.
So you mentioned the subject of like people being kind of a ghost with having no website optimized profiles. But I also saw something interesting you said the other day, where you talked about anonymous brands or anonymous personalities on Twitter, which for me you said something about you felt like you realized that you're being a bit of a boomer about it. And I feel like I'm a bit of a boomer about that. I'm like, if you don't show your face, who the hell are you anyway? But you said you've had a change of heart about this and you actually think that anonymous brands can be very useful and valuable. So would you like to talk about that a little bit?
Yes. So what we're talking about here is a pseudonymous brand. It's not anonymous in the sense that people associate, they anthropomorphize the brand, the account, because there's a real person behind it. The account has a personality. It has certain things that they're interested in, certain themes that they focus on, and so it's a brand. It's just the brand, it has no real name attached to it, real name and a real face attached to it. So that's the difference between a pseudonymous brand and a personal brand. And the personal brand is sort of a relic, maybe a vestigial organ of the office kind of workplace and the Web 2.0 kind of sort of era. Now, and it's sort of also a transition from, you find that it's mostly people who they are, they might be millennials and they know a world where the internet didn't exist. So the newer generation, Gen Z, Gen Alpha, they've always grown up with the internet and they're very familiar with the concept of using gamer names,
Yes.
so they have their pseudonym in whatever game they're playing, Fortnite or Call of Duty or World of Warcraft or however. And so they're very used to the idea of not revealing their real name online. And so what happens with the pseudonymous brand is that the pseudonymous brand makes it easier for you to theme your account around a certain set of topics, and you're able to stick within those set of topics easier, because when you are a personal brand, you are much more likely to share random stuff about your life that might not be relevant to your brand. And with the pseudonymous brand, you have a set of constraints. So you have a lot of like, take Solbra, for instance. I would say Solbra is probably the best example of a pseudonymous brand, in that he has a very, very, very strong personality, but nobody knows his name or who he is, even though he has videos of himself online, but his face is blurred out.
Yes.
And he has very, very strong themes and ideas behind his account, and he was able to parlay those themes and ideas and the following that he built around those ideas into many related products that are selling very well. So he has, he started off with a cookbook, because one of his themes is his diet, and eating really, really good food that tastes very well, that's actually good for you, and you don't have to eat junk food in order for the food to taste good. So he started off with cookbooks. He DJs, so he would put out Soul Wave, which is a mix that he publishes on SoundCloud every month or so. He started a clothing line. He started a paid community, a Discord server, I believe. He has his own supplement line coming out. He launched, I believe, a gym bag recently. And so he's got all of these products are related to the themes, not to his personality or his person, but related to the themes that are connected to the Solbra pseudonymous brand. So that is an example where it becomes easier for you to do what you need to do online, and make money from your social media accounts, just because of the fact that you don't reveal your real name and your real face.
I love it. I didn't think about it from this perspective at all. I knew when I saw you post that on Twitter today, it's like, I need to talk to Nabeel about this when we get on.
It's fascinating because it's also so freeing, because that I don't know how to describe it. You tend to think that, okay, anonymity creates a certain kind of inclination for a person to be much more hostile than they are in
Yes.
person. And that could be, you know, that's one of the reasons why we say, you know, it's better to have your name and face out there, because at least you're held accountable to your online behavior.
Yes.
But the thing is that, and I don't know why, for some reason, more and more people tend to relate to these anonymous accounts, and they're more likely to engage and build a relationship with these anonymous accounts than they are with the personal brand. And I don't know if that's just me having a selective reading or a cognitive bias towards these accounts because I've been watching them so long. But that's what it does seem, that they find it it takes longer for them to build their audience, but when they do build their audience, they have a very, very strong relationship with that audience.
Hey, I can kind of propose an idea why that might be. And it's like to do with, you know, projection and transference. When you're watching a movie, for example, you know, people can, like, okay, give some examples. Such, you know, people can be a fan of Andrew Tate and they can love him and think he's awesome, but they all know in their heart that they are not Andrew Tate and they can't be him. They can't live that life because he's he. But people watch a Spider-Man movie, and for the period that they're watching the movie, they can kind of have that, enjoy the little daydream of being Spider-Man, because once the mask is on, Spider-Man could be anybody.
That is an excellent point. And I'll tie it again here to the Solbra brand. He has all of these themes and motifs that he gets his audience to participate in. One of them is called mandatory pull-ups. Manda tree, TREE. Okay, so anytime you see a tree, you have to do a set of pull-ups.
I love
And
it.
so he's got people taking part in this, his audience, and they send him the videos and he posts it on his stories. And so you're absolutely right. They're able to project their own person into this brand, this superhuman figure, this avatar, right? Avatar in the literal sense of the word.
Yes.
This avatar, and become the embodiment of you know, these ideals and these values. And he has more, like, you have these other brands like Seed Oil Disrespecter, right? That's one brand, right? And so the audience is able to rally around these ideas and these values, and they have a focal point for each of these values. You have the one account, like, if you don't like eating seed oils, you follow Seed Oil Disrespecter. You like you know, eating natural foods and you know, getting a lot of sunlight and sunning your balls, you follow Solbra. And so there are all of these different accounts that you follow that that tie into one or more aspects of your personality. And it's easier to do that than identify with a specific person that is a personal brand, even though that personal brand will be multifaceted, because that person is another person, and you can't be them. You can't be Seed Oil. You can sort of see yourself in Seed Oil Disrespecter, but I can't become John Caprani because I'm not John Caprani.
Yes. And it's interesting that you say it now, because the biggest personal brands do tend to take on this larger than life, almost cartoonish dimension. Like, you know, everyone's talking about Alex Hormozy this week, and his aesthetic has changed in the last couple of years. But when he first became popular, like, he was bigger than he's still in great shape. He's jacked, he's a big dude, but he was way bigger then than he is now. And he used to not have the beard, but he had the big mustache, and he used to wear a short sleeve shirt that accentuated it, and with stripes on it, like kind of like what Dan Kennedy used to wear. And I kept thinking, like, this guy is doing Dan Kennedy on steroids. When I saw the first picture of him, like, he'd look at the muscles he's flexing, and like, this is what Dan Kennedy would look like if he was young and really jacked. And like, that was this cartoonish thing. And like, obviously he's blown up, he's changed the aesthetic now, but, and you can think of other big personal brands like that, where they have some larger than life dimension that kind of lends itself to this idea of people identifying or being readily identifiable certain characteristics of their personality.
Yes. And so what happens is, with the personal brand, when the personal brand is big enough, take an Alex Hormozy or an Andrew Tate, or whoever it is, like a Mike Cernovich or something like that. That always becomes sort of like a father-son kind of relationship, where like that's your guru kind of thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the relationship is different than with the pseudonymous account, where it's like that meme, right? He just like me for real, right? And so so like when you see, like, if you're a Solbra type of person and you vibe with Solbra, and you're like, you see Solbra's account and you're like, he just like me for real, and so you follow him and you embody those personality traits and those ideas and things like that. And so it becomes easier for some people to develop a relationship with those types of accounts.
I love it. You've dimensionalized these pseudonymous accounts in a ways that I haven't thought about before, and I think this is actually valuable to other people who are going to watch this as well. So thank you.
And to add on to that, when it comes to like selling a service, right, it becomes only about the work, right? And it's less to do about how you look, who you are, your race, gender, sexuality, etc., etc.
Mm-hmm.
And all it does is, can this person do what they say they're doing? Do they have results, and can they get me results? And so it's a little bit more freeing in that way as well.
And it's funny, it sort of mirrors in a way like the sort of corporate mascot as well, like, you know, the Ronald McDonald or the Mickey Mouse.
It does. It does.
You also said that personal brands in their current incarnation are kind of like a vestige of the old sort of office culture of work. And that's an interesting thought, because I've seen, you know, personal brands are getting bigger and bigger, and we've got this thing now, and they put new wine, you know, in marketing, we put new wine in old bottles all the time. But there's been a lot of talk lately about things like the creator economy and, you know, this idea of personal brands as launch pads for other products and businesses. But do you see that that will go away or become of lesser importance as time passes?
So I think that I'm sort of torn in two worlds about this. On the one hand, I am a personal brand. I make the majority of my money from, you know, exactly
The
my
big beard.
appearance online, my appearance online. But I would rather that I not have to be on social media and just have businesses that you know, that operate efficiently and make enough money. And I'm sort of trying to do that a little bit more as time passes by. I'm trying to put more effort into the marketing of Dropkick Copy, of Copy Skills, and of Muslim Man, and put less emphasis on, you know, building my personal brand, even though the personal brand seems to like keep growing on its own. And so really what happens is, with the creator economy, I think, and this is something that popped into my head yesterday, it's good that you brought it up. So the creator economy is a psyop, in the sense that the creator economy does not allow the creator to capture a significant portion of the value that they create. The vast majority of the value that they create is for the platforms that they create content on.
Yes.
The brands that they advertise for,
Yes.
and whatever other, you know, product deals that they end up doing. And so the creator will never capture the lion's share of the ad revenue that their content generates for, let's say, a YouTube or a TikTok. The creator will never capture the lion's share of the revenue that they generate for a product that they advertise on a brand deal. And the only outlet there is for these creators to actually create their own businesses. And the problem with them creating their own businesses is now those businesses are tied to their person. And so unless they build the business the right way, which is very difficult to do, that business is forever tied to their name, and it's going to be very difficult for them to um, to have the different outcomes that you want to have with the business, like an exit, like a liquidity event, things of that nature. Even though there are some celebrities who have done it, I know, for example, Conor McGregor, he sold his. A lot of these celebrities are selling their alcohol, their liquor brands, right, to larger companies, that kind of thing. So it does happen, and if you build the business the right way, but again, those celebrities still have to stay on as the faces of the brand, right? They're not able to sort of let the business be its own thing and have it not be related to their celebrity. So, I mean, on the one hand, the creator economy makes it much easier for you to start a business, whether that's selling products or selling services or monetizing your audience in different ways. But it also has its own drawbacks in the sense that you have to be a public figure.
I love it. And it's yeah, I mean, there's some really good deep insights there. I mean, the first one is about, people look up to the big personal brands, like the huge global ones, like say a Kylie Jenner or a Conor McGregor, and see that they've done this thing, they've become famous in one area, they've created a product, they sell it, and it looks like it's all gravy. But I think what they don't realize is that there's a certain critical mass they had to achieve before that was even possible. And for the person who starts a small personal brand that, maybe has tens of thousands or even a couple of 100,000 followers, it may end up just being a grind, what we call in internet marketing, a dancing bear business, where there's no possibility of selling it and you're really stuck with it forevermore because you get used to a certain lifestyle, a certain level of income, and it's all going to go away if you don't get up on social media and create content on the daily.
Yes, exactly. That's why I love what Justin Brook did with Ad Skills, where he redesigned it and packaged it in a way that it's not reliant on him anymore.
Yes.
And so he went from he went from a business where it was relying on him doing a lot of email promos every single month to bring in new business, to having a very simple subscription product that doesn't rely on him to create content. The content creators are all other people. I recently got featured. A couple of my email marketing lessons were featured inside Ad Skills, and so Justin Brook doesn't need to be there for that. And in fact, he's not even the CEO anymore. Liana is the CEO.
Yes.
And so the way he managed to extract himself from that business, and so it runs without him, I find that very attractive. And in fact, I'm copying every single thing that Ad Skills or Justin Brook did with Ad Skills for Copy Skills. I even named it the same way.
I didn't notice that till you just said it. But yeah, he's created like a kind of micro platform specifically for media buying, which is really good. And I also thought that, what he did with appointing Liana as CEO and him stepping back to be the founder, who still has a voice but is not day-to-day involved, it created a lot more of a sort of legitimacy and professional feel to the brand, where it's a real company now,
Yes.
Justin's the
absolutely.
chairman of the board. He's no longer the guy who's actually, you can be the farmer and the mule, and if you're the farmer and the mule, you're not going to get respected. You have to step back and let the mule drag the cart and just be the farmer.
Yes, exactly.
And then the other thing you mentioned just there was about this idea of value capture versus value creation. And that's been an idea that's been in my head for years, ever since I heard Steve Jobs talk about that when he used to talk about the origins of the Apple Mac and Xerox PARC. And he used to talk about how the research team at Xerox PARC created some of the most valuable assets ever made in the history of computing, but they never captured the value of their great work. And all of the value that they created accrued to Apple because Apple capitalized it on it with the product that they took to market. And specifically with all these creators and people who are doing UGC and sort of smaller influencers who, again, saw the opportunity with the kind of earlier wave of influencers who made really great money and built their personal brands, but like the payouts have gotten smaller. They're doing more of this dancing bear stuff, doing 30 and 60-second videos for $25, $50, $100 payouts. And what's really happening is that platforms are coming into those spaces specifically for, I can't remember what the name of the big one is, but I think it's Lemonade, where these platforms for UGC and for creators to get paid by brands. And so essentially all the value flows to the platform, who captures them all and aggregates them in one place, and then the brands just pay for the service. They don't want to deal with the relationships with all these distributed creators all over the place.
The other aspect of it is, and I forgot to mention this point, is that when you're a content creator and you depend on the creator revenue that you get from platforms and brand deals that you get from platforms, what happens is your content has to be in lockstep with the algorithm and algorithm changes. And so you are, exactly like you said, a dancing bear, or you're just a manifestation of the latest algorithm change. So you aren't able to create art in the way that you want to create art. You have to create your art or create your content in the exact way that increases your stick rate, watch time, click-through rate, all of those metrics. And that has a negative second and third order effects on humanity as a whole, because attention spans are getting shorter and shorter and shorter. So, for example, you can't, if you're talking on video, you can't speak with a normal cadence anymore. You can't slow down to emphasize an important point or speed up when things are not, when you're just mentioning stuff offhand. You have to actually speak in this staccato thing, or you have to edit it so it sounds like that. And so people are not even used to the normal way of speaking anymore. I find this happening to me as well. Whenever I see a video that's not chopped up into that staccato format where there's no dead space whatsoever, I find myself trying to wait, either switching to a different video or speeding the video up. So that has the other problem as well. If you are able to, but if you've got a business tied to that, and you're not in your creator, and you're not you're not relying on the creator, the platform that you're creating on to make you your money, you are able to have a much better time creating content, because you can create the content that is relevant not to the algorithm but relevant to the audience that you're trying to serve, because you're making your money from the business. You're not making your money from brand deals or the network that you're producing content on.
Yes, and there's also the fact of hedonic adaptation. Anybody who builds a brand around having an audience, inevitably that audience will get bored, and then you have to either accept it and create something completely new and different, rip it up and start again, or if you really are dependent on that income stream, you have to just do ever more outrageous things to keep people's attention, which usually ends up in you basically publicly humiliating yourself.
And that's another reason why a pseudonymous brand is preferable to a personal brand, because at any point you can just shut down the pseudonymous brand, or have somebody else come in and run the pseudonymous brand, as long as they may able to maintain the same themes and motifs and personality. You're not stuck in this online hamster wheel with a pseudonymous brand the way you are with a personal brand. So it's sort of a mix between having a business brand, a business social media, and a personal social media inside the pseudonymous brand. So you get the advantages of being a real person and people responding to you as if you are a real person, without the drawbacks of putting your full self online.
And I wanted to talk about copy skills a little bit, which is your training program for copywriters. And God knows there's a lot of training programs out there for copywriters, but I really like the way you've approached it, where you've said, you know what, the mainstream of people who are willing to pay thousands for programs is an overserved market. And there's this huge underserved market of people from less well-off countries who are also subject to exchange rates, punitive exchange rates against the US dollar, that do not support them being able to buy a product from somebody in America. And I can actually put something into the market for them that can deliver a lot of value. So would you like to just share a little bit about sort of your development process with that program?
Yes, so Copy Skills is a training program, I guess the only training program in the world for Global South copywriters. And that's the new politically correct word for it. Usually we call them third world copywriters. And the reason I created Copy Skills was I have this online audience, and many of them are copywriters. I have an email list, and many of them reach out to me. Not many, but enough reach out to me asking for, you know, mentorship or advice on how to get started, things like that. So beginner copywriters. And I eventually got you know, tired of them asking me and me having to direct them to other resources, so that I thought, okay, why don't I just create this? And the positioning, the way I ended up on the positioning is because there are already several excellent training programs for copywriters, training or coaching or mentorship programs for copywriters out there. You have Alan Sultanic, you have Stefan Georgi, you have Pauline Longden's small group thingy, knowledge. Oh, can't remember what it was called.
Knowledge Nuggets,
but
is it?
No, Knowledge Nuggets is a newsletter. She has another
Ah.
product where it's like a small group coaching program, but she also does one-on-one coaching, which is excellent and very fairly priced. So if you want like real coaching, I would highly recommend her.
She's a legend.
Exactly. And she's trained by Paris Lampropoulos. So like you're getting that knowledge by osmosis. But in any case, there are all these programs. Lukasz Reshevsky has his own program. You have Shiv Shetty and Adil Amarsi's program.
Mm-hmm.
You have who was the other one? You have Cardinal Mason's Copy MBA program. And all of these competing products in the market, they are all being sold on the basis of the guru's personal brand, even though they might have support coaches underneath helping them serve the students, but it's all based on the guru's personal brand.
Yes.
Okay, that's number one. They're all the same thing. So get better at copy, get more clients. Those are the two USPs. And really, the only difference between them is how famous the person is who's selling it. Other than that, there's very little difference between the products themselves. And so there's feature parity in all of the competing products in the market. So when there's feature parity and everybody has the same features, the person who wins is the person who tells the best story. And so Copy Skills is a story about copywriters in the global South being underserved and ignored by the quote-unquote guru copywriters because they're not worth serving. They don't have the money to pay the prices that the gurus want to get paid.
Mm-hmm.
Not only that, their credit cards don't work with many payment processors that these gurus are using. And so it's, even if they had the money, it's impossible for them to actually pay them the money to join the program.
Mm-hmm.
And in general, they're not getting the support that they need, even though they're willing and able to pay for the support. So that is the story that I'm telling with Copy Skills. And in accordance with the story, the pricing has to reflect that. So I can't have a training program for Global South copywriters and price it at $200 a month. The pricing has to match the positioning and the mission of the product or the brand. So that's how Copy Skills is sort of set up.
It's almost social entrepreneurship.
I would never say.
No,
say
you
that.
you hate that. No, I'm not running a charity here. I'm a mean old capitalist.
Yeah, exactly. And not only that, it's not just the price point and the positioning, it's also the way that the program is set up. So we don't do coaching calls. We have office hours now that I recently introduced, but they're at a time that is convenient for people in the Eastern Hemisphere, which is where most of our members are. And we don't have a culture of online calls where you got to wake up at 3 in the morning, like Pauline, to do her Copy Club mentorship with Paris. That doesn't happen. You're not waking up at midnight to sit on a call for 2 hours or watching recordings and things like that. They're able to, in the community, ask a question and get a response within 24 hours or less, because we don't rely on calls. And we have the office hours as a value add on top of that for anybody who wants to show up and do something in person.
So you see the office hours as fundamentally different because it's just Q&A. It's not show up to be coached.
Yes.
So in that case, how do you deliver your content? Do you deliver it in text, in recorded video, or something else?
It's mostly in text. So they'll ask a question, I'll reply as if I'm replying on social media. If it's a copy critique, sometimes I'll do a screen share. I upload on individual topics. I'll upload like playbooks. So it's like a video on a specific thing that I want to teach. We have courses in the program, 3 courses right now, and we're adding more as well as time progresses. We have guest lecturers come in, once every month or once every 2 months, that kind of thing. And we have 9 guest lectures so far on different topics. So that's how we're delivering the content.
I love it, man. It's so good. And I think the last thing I'd like to talk with you about today is your other brand, which is Muslim Man, which I haven't heard as much about. I'd like to kind of know a little bit more about where that came from and where you're going with it.
So Muslim Man is a lifestyle brand and a newsletter I started because there is a lot of the content by content creators for Muslims online is YouTube, TikTok, video, that kind of thing. There's nobody in the text space. There's nobody producing written material at the kind of level that I want it to be produced. There are blogs, again, vestigial organs of the old Web 2.0 era, old Islam blogs for Muslims and things like that do get traffic, and they're quite popular. But there is nothing of nature, like a newsletter specific to Muslim men, and so that's why I created that for. And also, as I wanted to create it as a vehicle to sell products to Muslims. The first product that we're selling is a book for Muslim men. It's called 40 Hadith on Masculinity, How to Be a Good Man. And that was inspired, at least the subtitle was inspired by something in some concept in Jack Donovan's work. Jack Donovan is the author of The Way of Men, Becoming a Barbarian, A More Complete Beast, and one other book. And he's a masculinity author. So I wanted to create something of that vein for Muslim men that would be relevant to us. And so really the newsletter is just a mechanism for me to sell stuff.
Okay. But is it a print format, or are you distributing it digitally?
It's a digital newsletter. And it comes out right now. It comes out once a week. And so that's also, it's a new business model I want to try out, this newsletter business model. And it's becoming quite popular. Everybody's starting a newsletter now.
Yes.
But there's everybody's got their AI newsletter. You know what I mean? Or a marketing newsletter. Like, I don't need to create the fucking 7,530 exactly AI newsletter or marketing newsletter or entrepreneurship newsletter. This is something it's in a different market. It's new, and now I just got to figure out how to produce enough content for it, because it's kind of difficult. I still do client work, so that's the majority of my time. I have to do client work. I'm thankfully Copy Skills doesn't take a lot of time to manage. That's about 5 hours a week. And then I got to produce content for Muslim Man, and I also got to produce content for Dropkick Copy to get more clients. So that's just the difficulties of juggling those 3 things. But it's fun. The Muslim Man project is fun. It's easy to write, and just writing is my forte. But I don't want to be the one writing the content either. I want to actually have writers that do it, so that I can, be more of a CEO type or editor-in-chief type, who's actually just running the business as opposed to the one creating the content.
So it's almost going to be like a sort of lifestyle magazine type brand.
Yeah, lifestyle brand. You can call it a digital magazine. We might even do a print version. It's a media company.
Love it, because it lends itself to so many different things, right? It lends itself to even things like apparel, travel, all kinds of other stuff.
Exactly. So that's why I positioned it as a lifestyle brand, as opposed to a blog or something of that nature. I deliberately called it a lifestyle brand because of this reason, so that I can create different categories of products to appeal to the many different facets of a Muslim man's life. So that's
Awesome.
clothing, that's info products, that's religious material, that's physical products of some sort. That could be matchmaking, helping Muslim men find wives. That could be investment products for high net worth Muslims who want to invest. Everything is open by positioning it as a lifestyle brand.
I love it. Nabeel, just to wrap up this conversation, I'm really glad we had it because, it's given me a sort of deeper view on your perspective on life, and you're a very sophisticated and nuanced thinker, much more so than I think most people who are in direct response, who tend to just want to crank the hype lever all the time.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
And yeah, just the thoughtfulness and the preparation and the foresight you put into the things you do is really admirable. If people want to find out more about you, where's the best place to come and see what they want to see?
You will find me most active on Twitter. However, I think you'll enjoy the newsletter content the most. So if you go to my website, nabeelazeez.com, that's Nabeel with 2 E's and Aziz with 2 E's, nabeelazeez.com, and subscribe to my newsletter. I send out an email almost every day.
Awesome. I will put the link to that in the video description on YouTube. So just to say finally, thank you so much. I really appreciate this conversation. Yeah. It's been great having you.
These were excellent questions. Thank you. I appreciated them.
I do no preparation for just this purpose. If I was to rinse out some sort of patty cake questions, they would end up being just these stifled, boring conversations. And I just have a notebook in front of me. And anytime you say something interesting, I write it down, and that's my next question. And it works really great as a format because you end up talking about much more random stuff than if you plan it out ahead of time.
Yeah, I wasn't expecting to talk about the stuff that we talked about.
Fantastic. Yeah. And I know people who watch these interviews are going to like it because it's different to the last thing and it's different to everybody else. And this is what I want to do, something different every week.
Fantastic.
Thank you so much. I'm going to stop the recording now.
Thank you, John. I appreciate it.